It's a new year, but it's the same old inconsistent New Jersey Devils, and apparently booing someone for 45 minutes of a game is now the norm at the Prudential Center. All that and more with a special guest today on this edition of the Devil's State of Mind podcast. And a pleasant good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, Devils fans, and what is going on? Happy New Year. Happy 2026. As always, it is your host with the most here of the Devil's State of Mind podcast, Neil Villapiano, and welcome to the first episode of 2026 of the Devil's State of Mind podcast right here on the Hockey Podcast Network, as well as SportsWire Radio, the best place to get everything you need to know about your New Year's, same inconsistent New Jersey Devils. And as always, Devils fans, I hope to some extent you're having a fantastic day wherever you're listening to this episode. And thank you guys, as always, for taking time out of your day to check these episodes out. You already know that I greatly appreciate it. As always, shout out to our friends over at DraftKings Sportsbook. And with the NFL playoffs literally kicking off this upcoming weekend, you already know that DraftKings is your number one place to get in on all of the huge cash prizes throughout the playoffs and so many other sports going on. All you got to do is sign up with our promo code THPN and you bet $5. And if your bet hits, you get $300 instantly in risk-free bet money. It is the absolute perfect deal to get in right now, especially as mentioned before with the NFL playoffs. That's all courtesy of DraftKings Sportsbook using our promo code THPN. The crown is yours. And as always, Devils fans, make sure to bet responsibly. When we last left our heroes, which was about a week ago, I went on a full-fledged I think it was nearly hour rant about the state of our New Jersey Devils. And, I'll give them credit. They bounced back after that embarrassing loss to the Toronto Maple Leafs last week with a gutsy come-from-behind win over the Columbus Blue Jackets. And then on Saturday afternoon, I was in attendance for that one. I actually took my dad to the game. He's undefeated in games he's gone to. So I think I got to start bringing him to more games. But the Devils came away with a decisive 4-1 win in that one. And you were hoping that the Devils could continue that better play against the Carolina Hurricanes to kick off the second half of the season, the same team that you began the year with. And it was, to put it bluntly, it was a fairly listless performance from this team for about 40 minutes. And obviously, we already know what has happened with the treatment of Luke Hughes. To say he had a bad game was an understatement. Probably had one of his worst games, if not his worst game of his career. And the fans let him know about it. And they let him know about it way too much, in my opinion. And it was overkill. But we'll get into that a little bit more. And today, Devils fans, I'm not alone. This is my go-to guy. This is my go-to guy to talk about what's going on with this Devils team. He does a great job breaking down not just Devils stuff, but also just throughout the NHL. He literally just got off the plane a few hours ago, coming back from South Florida, covering the NHL's Winter Classic. He was also at the Panthers game last night as well. But nonetheless, it is with great pleasure that we welcome on Full Press Hockey's own Jim Biringer. Jim, welcome back to the Devil's State of My podcast. Happy New Year, my friend. And first and foremost, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well, Neil. First of all, thanks for having me back on. Always a pleasure to be here with you guys. Yeah, making time for everybody here. Great time down in South Florida. Winter Classic was fun. Awesome stuff. All the haters out there should have experienced it because it was awesome. I'd rather go to a hockey game in 62-degree weather than freezing my you-know-what off. I know the atmosphere and the look is cool when you think of winter, but the game was awesome. The experience was awesome. And like you said, Devils, well, I caught some of the game Saturday. I was watching. It was a good, nice response game. I think everybody was wondering, with the time off in between after the comeback, the gut check that they had in that third period against Columbus, what they were going to do Saturday and Sunday against Carolina, those two games. And I was really impressed with the way they started off against Utah team. And then, it's just a tough night against Carolina. Again, the measuring stick. And, for those that, and I appreciate your kind words, but for those that haven't been following, I've been saying this since they played Carolina in 2023. Carolina's put the playbook out on how to beat the New Jersey Devils, and the Devils have yet to adjust on how to play these type of teams. And if they're going to want to win and make a deep playoff run, this is a team they're going to have to go through to do it.
Yeah, and I remember you telling me after Saturday's game, because we interact a lot on Twitter about, you know, measuring stick game going into last night against Carolina. It was important for this Devils team to come out, play motivated, and ultimately try to get the win, especially against the Hurricanes team that going into that game, they could only won 3 of their last 8, or were on a 3-game skid, only won 2 of their last 8. And in a handful of those games, they had multi-goal leads and ultimately lost. So it felt like that it was the perfect time for the Devils to get themselves a big win against what I consider to be their kryptonite. This is the team that the Devils players and front office just seems to really, really struggle against mentally, emotionally, and certainly on the ice. And last night was no different as the Devils, like I mentioned, dropped last night's game 3-1 to the Carolina Hurricanes. And really, as we know, Jim, the whole story of this game, other than the fact that the Devils were a impressive 0 for 6 or 0 for 5 on the power play last night, was Luke Hughes himself. If somehow you've lived under a rock
And you didn't see it.
and you didn't see it, which I don't know how you wouldn't, especially if you're a Devils fan or certainly hockey fan, you know as well as anyone that Luke Hughes was responsible for 2 of the 3 goals given up. I will say this, all 3 goals were mental mistakes, including the one that Stankoven scored where Jake Allen misplayed the puck behind his net, turned it over, and eventually it led to Stankoven banking it home through the legs of Allen to make it 3-1. That put the game out of reach, even though the Devils put up a really good effort in the third and pushed. They could not get another goal past Brandon Bussey, who continues to have an unbelievable year with Carolina. Um, and ultimately, the Devils lost. But the big story in this one, Jim, as we know, was after the second mistake that Luke Hughes made that resulted in the second goal of the game and ultimately the game winner. Devils fans let Luke Hughes know about what they felt about his play in that one and just continuously booed him for minutes on end. And it was basically the entire rest of the game. No matter what Luke Hughes did, good or bad, he was getting booed and getting booed pretty roughly. So my first question to you is simply this. Do you do you feel that it was justified for Devils fans to boo as much as they did, or to even boo at all at the play that Luke Hughes had last night?
All right, so I think it's justifiable to boo the player and the team, especially after what happened, right? Like all right, the first goal is like we've all been there, like trying to clear a puck and it just that. But the second one's inexcusable. Like that's a play that you should not be making as a National Hockey League professional. And even a midget peewee bantam player knows not to skate in front of your own net with pressure coming on you because that can happen. Look, go back and for fans that haven't watched it, go find the Randy McKay goal from 1995 in Game 4 of the
Mm,
Eastern Conference Final, Eastern Conference quarterfinal against the Boston Bruins, 0-0 game. Boston tried to bring it out. He pressured the puck carrier and he scored on Blaine Locker. So yeah, I mean, that's how far I go back with this team. And again, you don't do that. So yeah, you can boo after that play. Was it excessive? No. And this may be a hot take, or some people will be like, oh, well, look, I don't think that Luke Hughes is a $9 million defenseman. I don't think that he solved his turnover problems.
mhm.
And I don't think that the development of him has been proper. Now, that's again goes to the Devils management and everything. But he continues to make the same mistakes and tries to do too much.
Yeah.
And is it justifiable? In my opinion, yes. Is it but if you're gonna do it, then stay with it. And this is my issue with, like, the Markstrom bashing. If you don't like him and you wanna bash him, fine. To do it a whole season. When he starts playing well, you should still criticize him then. Don't jump on the other side of things. So if you're gonna boo Luke Hughes, then keep doing it the rest of the season. Look, I
Right.
think he's still an inexperienced defenseman, but he's 22 years old, right? And he's still got to develop and everything, right? But that's an inexcusable play. And he almost had another one that Jake Allen had to save.
Mm,
He had a tough night.
yeah.
And with everything that's gone on with this team, with the brothers and all this stuff, I think everything just hit the fan, and he just took everything. Like I'm sounding like Elliot Freeman, but he took everything. He took the brunt for the Tom Fitzgerald brunt. He took the Quinn Hughes trade that didn't happen. He's taken everything. But I'll say this on the other side, good on him for standing in front of the media and taking it like a person should, right?
Yeah.
Like most guys could have been like, yeah, no, I'm not doing it. Like
Sure.
whatever, I'm out the door. See you, peace. We'll do it another time. No, but good on him for facing the music. But I'm gonna say this from a coaching side of it and something here. I would personally sit him down for a game just to let him reset mentally.
Hmm.
I know you want to play through mistakes. I know you want to get back out there. I think he needs to go and watch the game high above and understand what he can and cannot do as a defenseman in the National Hockey League.
Yeah. I think that it really kind of started with the fact, it's like the old saying goes, right? Like when it rains, it pours. And that was just kind of the game that Luke Hughes had. It just felt like no matter what he did, it was going to end up either in the back of the net or certainly as a mistake. And I don't know if I want to give Sheldon Keefe credit or not for throwing Luke Hughes right back out there after the first mistake. I mean, like we said, one mistake is one mistake, right?
Yeah,
If
and that
that
one is as a guy who's played the game, it's happened to me a bunch of times. Like it's
right,
like all
yeah,
right, that one's that one.
sure,
Like you try to clear the puck, you're trying momentum carries it the wrong way. Okay,
right.
forget
And
about that one and you move on. The second one,
one
he should have been
that
shat
was
for at
bad.
least two shifts. That should have been a benching potential. Some other coaches would have sat him down for the rest of the game and would have been justified for it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that just, you got to give Taylor Hall credit. He played really good. He did a good job on the forecheck to at least, create that opportunity. I can't blame Jake Allen because he just wasn't prepared for it. I mean, he just not something that you're fully expecting every time when that situation happens. And like you said, it's kind of a little league kind of play that just should not happen. And
No.
so it's possible that I think Luke Hughes, that first goal was in his head and he just continued to overthink and he just continued it no matter what was happening in that game. There were a couple times where he had a good chance to maybe score. And I was hoping, like Jake Allen had said in the presser after the game, he was hoping that Luke Hughes would find the back of the net and get himself kind of back into the game. But, obviously that was not the case. But I did want to say that a couple things that stood out to me was one, like you mentioned, I give Luke Hughes a lot of credit for speaking to the media and facing that music right after. I thought it was interesting that Nico Hischier, who was not asked to speak, literally told the media to come to him because he wanted to say something. I give him credit for, sticking up for his teammate. Jake Allen obviously, spoke on it as well. Sheldon Keefe spoke on it. Everybody spoke on it. I think the problem that we're having right now, about little less than 24 hours after it all happened, is that it seems like now this has been blown out of proportion uh, on social media. I mean,
Yeah.
just today, with everything that I have seen, everything that I have read, it just feels like that now everybody is against one another when it comes to this fan base
Oh,
where people are attacking one another. And it's just this whole ordeal that comes down to the fact that we are not happy as a fan base that the team is once again underperforming. They have 1 point less than they did at this time last year, and they are still only 4 points out of a playoff spot. As I've said before, Jim, and I'm sure you agree, this team could go on a run starting tomorrow if they wanted to. and they would be right in the top 3 again by the end of the week, and nobody would be saying anything, and nobody would be complaining.
Oh
Who
no,
knows?
but it would go completely the other way. We start
Right.
planning the parade. Oh, Devils are gonna
Exactly. Yes. You're
re-
absolutely right.
realistically, like the expectation, like listen to Nico Heischer talk. Like this is why everybody needs to listen and read the stuff, right? Because Nico Heischer said it at the beginning of the year during the European Player Tour when he sat down with Dennis Bernstein, Dave Pagnotta, Sirius XM. It's like we have expectations. We believe we can make a D playoff run, right? Jack Hughes said the same thing when he sat down with the guys during the North American Player Tour. There's a belief in that room, but it goes to the Dallas Stars adage when Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn were at the forefront of everything. How many times do these guys got to get kicked in the pants before they perform consistently on a nightly basis? There's a standard for this team.
Yep.
They don't play 60 minutes. They haven't shown they can play a complete 60-minute game. And what Sheldon Keefe's not afraid to call out his players, which is a good thing. But you can't do it all the time. Like in New Jersey, you can get away with it. In Toronto, he had to walk
No.
it back every
Yeah.
time. But it was a big gut check after Tuesday night's performance. Because you mentioned the list of teams that they're playing, right? And teams are going struggle. Every time they run into a team that's struggling or, has injuries, they think the problem is with this team, and I hate to be, I'm not in the minds of all these players, but it just seems that ever since they went on that run in 22-23, they feel like everything should be easy for them because they have the skill and they don't want to work hard and embrace the hard. And that's the message I'm getting from Sheldon Keefe. When I'm in that room, when I'm watching this game, these guys don't want to embrace the hard work of night to night. Doesn't matter what injuries you're dealing with, next man up, who's in and out of the lineup. You have to play the same way, no matter. And I thought they turned a corner early in the season. That's why I asked the question about the mentality right before they went on that road trip to Colorado where they got spanked. When they beat Colorado in that game, the mentality of this team saying, hey, all right, we may not have our A game every night, but the fact that we can win with a BC game should bode well for this team the rest of the season. And they just went completely up the mentality. Once guys started getting injured, it's like, all right, well, I guess the season's lost now. But you see every team deals with injuries. Florida, like all the top teams are dealing with injuries, and they find a way to get through it.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I think that one thing that was so interesting, Jim, and I don't know if you saw it, was someone had asked Sheldon Keefe, I think around when they were at 6 or 7 wins at the beginning of the year, on that winning streak. They asked him about, has his team matured? Have they taken that step? And he didn't say yes. He didn't say no. He said that they're still working on it and it's still a process. I think that was a telling sign right there that I think Keith knew before anyone else knew that his team still had a lot of work to do. And I've said this before, and I don't know if you would agree with me, Jim, but it feels like to me at times that this is a fairly weak mental team. Like they seem to, when things get tough, things get really tough, they don't have a response and they are just all looking for somebody to do something to get them going. And it doesn't seem like anybody either can or fully wants to be that guy, whether it's in the locker room or on the ice or whatever the case may be. They just go through the emotions and they just allow these things that are said about them year in and year out to consistently be true without a proper response. So I wanted to get your thoughts on are they a mentally soft team? Is that too strong of a depiction of them? Like what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, if the coach said he's questioning the mental toughness on a back-to-back with that, you remember the stretch with the Anaheim and Vancouver, right?
Yes.
That was the weekend. We know the Quinn Hughes stuff, but they responded pretty well in the Anaheim game. They came out pretty much played really well against Anaheim, and the next night they just completely laid. He's like, we got to learn to play on back-to-backs, whether it's mental toughness, physical, mental. If the coach is saying it, then it's true, and it is a narrative. And they're letting things creep in. It's human nature, right? The whole trade, and we'll probably get to this in a minute and we'll talk about it. But the whole, like the locker room stuff, right? the trade stuff. Oh, who's going, who's staying, this and that. It does affect players, whether they want to say it or not. It affects you mentally. It affected the Vancouver locker room. It's affected other locker rooms, right? Like, it does do it because it constantly been brought up. But yeah, you read about it, mentally soft, mentally soft. Years, like, it was, I think it was 22, 23, even before they made that run. Like, and even after that, 23, 24, everything that could go wrong would go wrong in bunches, like
Yeah.
minutes. And they couldn't stop the bleeding. And at times this season, they can't stop the bleeding. And they have to learn how to stop the bleeding. You can't, okay, one bad goal, fine. Just forget it. Let it go. Don't dwell on it and just play the next shift.
Yeah.
And but the goal scoring went dry. Everything went dry at the wrong time. But I've written this and you've seen it. They just have too much of the same player on this team. Too many playmakers, not enough goal scorers, and there's too much of overcorrecting of mistakes from the management side of things that has allowed everything to happen. And I know everybody wants to get critical of contracts and this and that, but there's a reason why certain guys are here. Again, we talk about mental toughness. We talk about, we want to bring in guys with playoff experience, but then those guys should be stepping up, and those guys should be the vocal leaders. And if you have a true leader in that room, and I'm not saying Nico Hischier isn't, because he is. He's one of the best leaders in the game, and he's a good leader for this team. But guys that have made playoff runs before, guys that have been in this situation, top players step up and say, guess what, guys? My performance on the ice, this is how we're going to get it done. And they're just not doing it right now. And again, another back-to-back scenario. Carolina, you should be putting wins together, right? You should be doing this. Like, you're going on a road trip. Let's start putting some things together here, because again, this is the time of year last year where things started to go south for New Jersey after the Christmas holiday. Like, look, you said it before. Keith noticed it about the maturity. I noticed it watching. I listened to what Keith was saying, and I was like, yeah, he wasn't sold, despite an 8-game winning streak to start the year. He wasn't sold on his team playing the right way. He knew they could improve, and they've yet to show they can improve.
They've been very, very, very mediocre since that point. At best, right? And I showed it last week on my last episode about how this team is almost at NHL 500 right down the middle since the beginning of last year. Like,
that's not good.
That is incredible how mediocre like you can be. And it goes back to that whole thing about how this team continues to have very similar things happen to them, but with no response. And I think what's more aggravating than anything, Jim, and you've talked about it to me at nauseum, is the management of this team, the front office, meaning, obviously I'm talking about, the general manager of this team, continues to use excuses like injuries and things like that as why they can't take that next step. And it's, you sit here and you go, Tom Fitzgerald says at the end of last year, we're not going to come back with the same team. From a player standpoint, in terms of names, sure, that was true. But in terms of, like you said, not having the same kind of guys, no, it was exactly the same as last year. There is no difference. The only difference is Connor Brown. That's literally the only difference. We are relying on Connor Brown to do more than I think he was honestly relied upon to do when he was in Edmonton the last couple of years. Like, guys are being asked to do more than they're capable of doing because of the way this team is constructed, because of unfortunate injuries, but that's going to happen to every team, as we've seen. The Devils aren't even the most injured team in the league this year. Hell, even the Toronto Maple Leafs have had more injuries than the Devils have had.
Florida Panthers, two-time defending Stanley Cup champs, are without Barkov, Tkachuk, Seth Jones, Dmitry Kulikov, Gadjanov, Cole Schmid. Like, they're out with 8 guys, 4 of whom helped them win the Stanley Cup for a second time. And they're still a point out of the playoffs. What's that say about you? What does it say about the leadership in the room, the way they want to play, how they want to do it? Look, this team, you can't use injuries as an excuse anymore. I'm tired of the injury excuse. The injury excuse went out the window last year, right?
Thank
To
you.
me, okay,
Thank
fine.
you. Yep.
Injuries, okay, whatever. Jack Hughes, whatever. But this also goes to a point I've talked to Vic Moran about this. I put the post up. I'll probably post it. I'll send it to you if you want to give it to your viewers.
Sure.
This tells me, why do you design a team around one guy offensively when he always goes out of the lineup? You can't
No.
do that. Like that, to me, that's a bad way of putting together a team if you're just relying on one guy. Oh, by the way, who's not 100%, who's back in the lineup, who is wearing a brace on his hand still, on and off the ice, and has been invisible since the day he scored a goal. I
Right.
mean, like, I'm just being honest here. Like, I'm
I'm with
bringing the
you.
real talk to you guys. And I said this on Sirius XM the beginning of the year in September with Mick Kern and Jay Con. They asked me about New Jersey, and even in July, I was with the Mick Kern again, and John Hoven and a bunch of other guys out there. And they asked me about New Jersey, and I said, well, look, is Evgeny Dadonov really going to move the needle? No.
I
Connor
forgot he
Brown,
was on the team, to be
right,
honest
because he's
with
been
you.
injured, right? But
Right.
again, Connor Brown, okay, like Connor Brown was good in Edmonton. He's a utility player that could go up and down your lineup. Good penalty killer, okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Stefan Easton's not going to have a 20-goal season again. Like, you can't have a career season every year. Like, it's impossible to do that in the National Hockey League. Yes, Hall of Famers can do it. I get it. Like, that's why they're Hall of Famers. But for the most majority of players, you can't have a career year every year. It's impossible. Like,
Yeah.
you can't do it. And Jesper Bratt had a great year last year. He's down. Nico had a great year. He's down. Like, it's hard to do that every year. And you're not getting the most out of the guys that you have there. So when I wrote the article about tough decisions, what tough decisions were made, all the guys on the bottom six we knew weren't coming back.
Right.
So, okay, but what about the guys at the top? And I mentioned this on another shout out to my guys at Big Apple Hockey, by the way. They asked me, what do you think about certain players? And I said, well, when are you going to start to look at Timo Meier? Like, when are you going to start to look at him? When are you going to start to look at the core of this team and who you see as the core of this team? Everybody wants to talk about shedding money at Dougie, Andre, all those guys. Well, what about a guy like Meier? I'm not saying he's going to get traded. I'm not saying they even went to him. But if you're starting to look at making tough decisions, yes, you traded for him. Yes, he's having a better year. But money and there's too much of the same, and the guys you brought in don't fit what you're trying to do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that, again, this, like you said, there's been so much talk about, Dougie Hamilton and Andre Palat in terms of guys getting moved. You mentioned it to me that, like, at this point, it's better that it's more likely that it's just, if either of those guys get moved, it's an off-season thing. And I know that Fitzgerald probably tried to some extent to move at least Dougie Hamilton, but at this point, I think it's pretty clear that there isn't much going on with that.
So real quick on
Yeah,
the Dougie Hamilton thing, right?
sure,
Like, you see all the, like, we talk about this at the beginning. You talk about narratives, right?
yeah,
Well, there's this narrative like, oh, the Devils don't want him. The Devils don't want him. That's not true. The Devils do want him. They see him as a part of the team. But again, it comes down to money. Like, you make $9
exactly.
million, but whose fault is it that you gave Luke Hughes $9 million? It's on the general manager for allowing the family and the player to dictate
And the
his
agent.
value, and the
Yep.
agent. Like, again, that's the second straight year you lost a contract extension negotiation. Dawson Mercer's not a $4 million player.
No, no,
And Luke Hughes is not a $9 million player.
no.
Okay, they wanted him at 8, if not less than 8.
Right. I know that was something you had constantly mentioned to me, that the Devils wanted Luke Hughes at a lower value than what he actually got, and that just wasn't going to happen. It was
No.
good, and Fitzgerald had to be firm, and ultimately, especially with the contract negotiations dragging on into the preseason where he didn't play.
And
I mean,
that's another thing. Like, a lot of people wanted to poo-poo it. Oh, well, Luke's having a good year. He didn't need training camp. You're seeing why training camp and missing training camp right now is an important thing. Like, you don't want to
yes,
pile on the player, but You're seeing it in Boston with Jeremy Swayman. How much better does Jeremy Swayman look this year
Mm,
than he did last year? He held out and missed all of training camp
yeah,
and missed the preseason. And it really affected his year. It affects guys. Like, it
yeah,
affected Trevor Zegras, Owens-O. Like, it's affected you, Jamie
yeah,
Drysdale. It affects the player. Like, he should be a lot better than he is, but he missed the most important time in a condensed schedule when you don't practice.
right. And I mean, even you mentioned before. Look at Dawson Mercer. He had arguably one of his tougher years last year, and everybody says, "Well, he only missed one day." Still, like you're missing valuable time that you need to have to get yourself ready for the long year. And especially with this year having it be a condensed schedule and having a lot of, back to backs, having a lot of games. Look at just this month and the amount of games the Devils have to play before we get to the Olympic break. I mean,
Right?
who knows where this team will be by the
A
time this
make or
is all
break
said and
month
done.
for this team. I'll be
Oh,
honest, this
100%.
this is a make or break month for this team. Like,
I
as
agree.
much as there's parity in the Eastern Conference, if you don't stay within striking distance and you fall way, way behind the 8 ball, season's over.
Yeah. And I know also Jim, as he mentioned, very honest guy. He's very good at telling me when somebody that the Devils have been rumored to be in for, how much were they really in it and how much could they actually do. I think it was Philip Deneau, and he immediately messaged me and said, no, there was no way that they were going to be involved in that
Yeah.
at all because they had no money. They have no way to make it done. And that ultimately led to why the Devils could not get Quinn Hughes, because he didn't have the money to make it work, didn't have the assets that were the same as Minnesota. I
Could
often
have had the
wondered,
assets. Could have had the assets if
they
you
could have
drafted the right way.
if you drafted. And there's another factor. I mean, when you think about Tom Fitzgerald, you think about what he has done as a whole as this GM. He's relatively good in trades in terms of not getting, fleeced for the most part. But in terms of free agency and drafting in particular, and contract wise, he's not very good. He struggles a lot. I mean, there are guys that I can mention like Alex Holtz, I think is a prime example of just they screwed up.
Oh
Not
yeah.
only with the way he was drafted, but the way that they didn't develop him.
Oh,
And
100%.
I mean, go back to 22, 23, right? Or 23, 24, when what Holtz was sitting in the press box for like 30 straight games doing nothing. Like, why was he there? Why was he in the
Well, that's
box?
that's my biggest issue with
Yeah,
player development in the league. And Mike Morial said this to me multiple times. The NHL is not a developmental league. So if you think it's a developmental league, you're in the wrong business.
right.
If a player isn't being played properly where he's drafted or where you think he's going to be, then send him to the AHL and let him develop. And it doesn't matter how many years he's got to be there. Let him develop the right way.
Sure.
And if your system in the A is different than your system up top, then that's a problem too. So your drafting and your development is key.
Yeah.
And they didn't draft and develop him the right way at all. And that's on them because he was a really good player and
Yeah.
somebody that could have been a factor for the Devils offensively because of his shot. But his
Yeah.
confidence was shot and they didn't do anything. Perfect example. Zane Parekh right now for the Flames. I know you do guys with Flames and stuff, so I just want to shout out Flames. But
Sure.
Zane Parekh gets hurt. He's an 18-year-old with the Calgary Flames. He can't go to the AHL. Best thing that happened to him goes to World Juniors. He's lighting it on fire. Devils should have sent Jack Hughes his first year back to Team USA to the World Juniors because his confidence was shot early into that season. It would have
Should
been the best thing for him. But again, the development of Jack Hughes, and I'm not saying it was wrong, but I do believe the Devils should have forced him to go to college or play professional overseas just for the development of him because he's just look, I know he's good. I know he's very skillful, but there's something to say playing college, playing a pro year where you can develop your body and not take a couple of years to do it.
I mean, the two guys that I think that stand out to me when you mention that are like Austin Matthews didn't even, he played overseas
Mm-hmm.
before he was drafted, and Kirill Kaprizov, I think, is the prime example of he played in the KHL and developed there. So by the time he got to the NHL, he was raring and ready to go.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I say about Arseniy Griciuk and why he is fitting in so seamlessly in the league is because he was already developing for several years in the KHL. He had championship experience winning with Avangard Omsk. He's had a lot of experience playing in general. And so he comes to the league and everybody's blown away with his skill. And it's like, because he was properly developed in the second best league in the world to then come over to the NHL as a prove it deal. And he's proving that. So I think when it comes to development, you're absolutely right. And I think that what's really damning to me, Jim, and I mentioned this last week, is look how bad the Utica comments are as well.
No, they're awful.
I mean, you're talking about in a normal situation, right? If your AHL team is bad, there's a good chance that some of those young players that you had playing for Utica when they were good are now up in the NHL playing and contributing to that team. That's not happening.
No.
That's not happening. The only guy that has contributed for the most part is Shimon Nemec. And right now he's hurt.
And you could say Colton White to an extent.
And you could say Colton White, who, by the way, this is the second time he's been with this team in his career.
Right. Like, to me, Colton White is like played really well. Like, I have nothing bad to say about it. He doesn't make it like, yeah, he's gonna make some mistakes, but for the most part, just steady defensive defenseman back there. But Nemec, I mean, they set Nemec down because he knew he wasn't ready. Like, I'll say this. Like, I go back to what Tom Fitzgerald said, like the 1 year. He's like, it was 23-24. When Nemec was up with and all those young guys were up.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, if it was up to me, they'd still be there. But injuries forced them up. Like, Casey's developing in the AHL right now, where he should be. Would this have been the year for Nemec originally? Probably. I think they would have liked to have Nemec down there for 2 years. To be honest, let him develop, and now this is the time to go shine.
Yeah.
But, circumstances didn't allow it, and they've had injuries on the back end, and he's ran with it, and he ran with it this year too.
Right.
But again, the development, who you're drafting, guys you're waiting on. Again, you go back to the Quinn Hughes package. Devils could have had Marco Rossi. Devils could have had Zeev Bouillon. They would have had 2/3 of the package. You would have just thrown in something else in the first, and you would have had it done. You don't. And it goes back to the cap space we talked about. The guys getting the contracts, the no movement clauses, and everything like that. And now you're stuck and your hands are tied. Like I told you, Deneau was always going to Montreal. Like, everybody's, Steven Stamkos. Well, if the Nashville Predators don't want to retain all of $8 million, or doesn't want to retain any of it, he's not going to New Jersey, right? It's not going to happen. Like, Ryan O'Reilly would be a great fit, but he wants to stay. Like, all the players the Devils are connected to, look at the salary cap. Who's moving out? And none of the players want to go to bad teams. They all want to win. So good luck. Again, yes, we've seen the Rangers across the way be like, all right, we got to force your hand. Yeah, but the players that they've sent out have gone to up-and-coming teams that are about to take that next step.
Sure, exactly. Yeah.
But they're not going to bottom feeders. And guys don't want to go play in Canada. Like, everybody's like, oh, Doug, you should have waived to go to Vancouver. He don't want to play in Canada no more. Like, he ain't going.
And he has control over where he goes.
He has control where he wants to go. He wants to go to 10 teams. Bank on what the 10 teams are. They're all winners. Like, exactly. Like, so it was impossible when I heard Jim Rutherford say it for the first time he wants to play, the first thing I said to myself was, it ain't happening. Like, no matter what, it's not happening. It's a pipe dream. Yes, it was handed to New Jersey because they probably knew about it since last year. Like, Quinn Hughes had basically said in the media in Vancouver, said the Canucks knew since last year. So if the Devils knew, like most teams knew, and they were kept in the loop, by the way. So this is nothing new. They were kept in the loop of what the offers were. And once Minnesota's offer was shown to New Jersey, they're like, yeah, we can't do this. Like, we can't do it. No. Like, it's impossible. Like, and then don't forget, okay, so say they get Quinn Hughes, right? What's his extension going to look like? Look, where are we getting all this money?
Where's the money coming from?
Where's the money coming from? Like, like, I know it wouldn't have kicked in until when the cap was at 113, but still, you still have all this extra money. Where is this money going? Don't forget, you have all these other guys that need to be signed. Oh, by the way, Simone Nemec needs a new contract. This guy needs
Nico Hischier in 2027.
Nico Hischier's coming up. Like, So it's a cap issue. It's a management issue. It's a mismanagement of assets. And again, tough decisions, same roster, but it's the same roster.
And that's why I think for a lot of us, we want to see change happen that way. Like, here's something that I find so interesting. My dad is not the biggest hockey
Mhm.
aficionado, but he's watched the team since the 80s. He has
So he's a
told me
long time fan. He's a
for
long
a
time
long
fan.
time, of course. He tells me all the time, Neil, the reason the Devils are this way is because they play a system that is inappropriate for what they are. They're inappropriate. He says it's the John Hines way of hockey because he's still scarred from John Hines coaching his team. That's how he looks. And I said, the only difference then, if we're going to go off that, is the guy who is the general manager because he was still part of this front office when the late Ray Shiro was managing this team. So, like, we have different coaches, different players, so to speak, but we're getting the same results. Why? Well, because we have the same mentality and the same system building that just doesn't work. And it's not helping this team. It's like they forget. And like you mentioned, and I think back to what Austin Matthews said about how we just have too many passengers on this team. I would say the same thing for this Devils team
The
in many
Devils
ways.
are exactly what the Toronto Maple Leafs were.
Yeah. What's the difference?
There's
What is
no
the difference?
different. The difference is that Marner, Nylander, Austin Matthews, and Tavares are more skilled than what they have right now.
Sure. Yes. And
That like, but outside of that, like it's the same thing. Like they have a lot of passengers. They don't have a lot of drivers right now. Like,
right.
but again, we haven't seen the Devils consistently make the playoffs. Like the Leafs were making the playoffs at least,
Right.
right? Like Austin Matthews' first year, they made the playoffs, or second year, they made the playoffs, lost to Washington. Okay. But then they started going that run where they were making playoffs.
Right.
The Devils have yet to show they can consistently make the playoffs. And everybody's like, oh, well, they were building a team like Colorado. Yeah, but Colorado can get away with it because the trades they made, the cap management they have, and the players they brought in. Like that was the
Yeah.
difference why Colorado won the cup and why they are the way they are. The asset management, the cap management, and the tough decisions that made. They got rid of Mikko Rantanen. Okay? And they brought in Marty Necas. Like they understand what needed to be done
Right.
to and look at Florida. They changed from this fast team. Okay, well, we're gonna go get Kachuk. We're gonna give rid of Huberto. They decided they took it upon themselves to decide to make tough decisions.
Yep.
Tampa, tough decisions, right? The New
Yeah.
Jersey Devils have yet to show me they can make a tough decision. And maybe it's not on Tom Fitzgerald, but I do believe I was told this, the late great Rishiro, one of the reasons he was fired was that he didn't want to include the analytics department. He felt it was his way, the old school hockey way of doing things. I think there's too much influence in the analytics department. I don't think the
I agree.
analytics department is good. I look, I'm an old school hockey guy.
Same.
I'm an eye test guy.
Yep.
Some numbers are great. That's fine. I get it. But if you rely on it too much, you can constantly ask yourself why you're losing. Devils are constantly asking themselves why they're losing.
Yep.
It's
Dude,
an eye test thing, right? To me, like
yeah.
you can have a balance, but I think at the end of the day, the old school mentality of hockey still exists where, yeah, it's a numbers thing. Hey, we can look at. I don't give a crap what the numbers tell me. If a player's playing bad and his numbers tell me otherwise, I don't really care.
Right.
Eye test says one thing.
Sure. Yeah. And that it's funny. Jesus Christ. I feel like you just broke down what the reason why the Yankees are what they are
But that's the
for
same
last
reason the
the
Yankees
same,
are what they are.
right. They think, oh, the analytics say we're doing great, so why aren't we winning? Well, maybe it's because you
Because your
rely
team
too
stinks.
heavily on the
Because your
same
team
thing.
stinks and your team's not built the right way. And the
Right.
Devils team
Exactly.
isn't built the right way. Like,
Um,
like I'm being bluntly honest. Like I know a lot of people, are gonna say, well, look, I'm a I'm an independent writer.
thank you.
Have an independent way of thinking. I believe in a
Fine.
certain style. This Devils team is not built the right way for success. They're not. They're
Right.
just not built the right way. They
Right.
still have too many holes on this team, down the middle, scoring winger, and this look. I mentioned it before. Too much overcorrecting, right? So remember they made the playoffs the one year, right? And Akira
Yep.
Schmid and everything. Then I said, hey, Carolina set the playbook, and they kind of exposed the goaltending, but they didn't go get the goaltender. And they're like, oh,
Yeah.
we can run this team back, right? And they
The
had the defense,
calculated risk. That's what I called it
calculated
back
risk,
then.
right?
Yep.
So then the following year, we overcorrect everything, make the defense, all this stuff. But you know what I go back to? The biggest thing that one year, Tom Fitzgerald said, I'm not trading Tyler Toffoli for nothing. What did he trade him for? Second
Nothing.
round pick to a place he didn't want to go to.
No.
He wasn't treated like Ryan O'Reilly is being treated. He didn't want to go to Winnipeg. He didn't mind getting traded. He didn't want to go to Winnipeg. But you're telling me you couldn't give the Kovacevic deal to Toffoli at that time? They're missing that player.
Dude, to this day, Jim, I harp on that because I sat there when the Devils traded for Toffoli. I said, "This is such a good move because you're replacing at the time a young Sharon Govich who was more inconsistent, and
Mhm.
he's still fairly inconsistent in Calgary.
I mean, he
You're
was hurt at the beginning of this year, so
right, and he is playing better. I mean, the Flames in general are playing better, which is kind of nuts. But Toffoli came in and was playing exactly the way that everybody expected him to play. And everyone goes, oh, well, he's slow. Who cares? The dude is potting goals left and right. Like,
you can't replace a 25 goal scorer.
you can't. And that's the problem. And then since that point, what have been the last two off seasons? Oh, the Devils need to find a top six winger.
Didn't
You
do it.
had one.
Yes,
You had one, and there
exactly.
was no reason to trade him. He didn't want to go.
Okay.
It was very clear to me, at least, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, that it came down to simply Toffoli wanted a 4-year deal, which he got with San Jose.
Mhm.
But Tom Fitzgerald, for some stupid reason, was like, I only want to give him 3.
It was that and the trade protection. Toffoli wanted trade protection.
Okay. You've
But
given everyone else trade
that's
protection.
what I'm saying. Like, I don't understand it. Like, these are the
Hey,
people I'm talking to. Like, Toffoli wanted to stay in New Jersey. He wanted to help the team win. Guy wanted to be there, but you didn't want to give him a 4th year and trade protection. This is what I was told at the time. He wanted 2-year full no move.
Okay.
10-team trade, 10-team trade. So he could be traded if the time was right. Modified, obviously. I think that
Sure.
the 4th year would have been a 5, right?
Right.
So you can move him. You're telling me you couldn't do that? Look, I know I'm driving you insane with the
I
information
know.
that I have,
I'm
but
dying here.
like, but this is informative to understand where we're at this point. Like,
Right.
again, a half season of Jonathan Kovacevic, who is a good third pair defenseman, got a 4-year, $5 million deal and a 2-year full no move.
No.
Come on.
No. When he was traded, when the Devils acquired, which by the way, I still am not, I know what the Devils got, but I'm still not a fan of trading John Marino as a puck moving defenseman when you didn't have any other
And
puck
he had a
moving
tough
defenseman.
year. I get it.
Still, I think that it wasn't fair to just punt on the guy, in my opinion. But you got Kovacevic, and my attitude was, all right, he's a big body 7th defenseman. That was literally my thought
Well, that's what he
when
was in Montreal.
right, exactly. And so yeah, he had a tremendous first year in New Jersey. But the problem was is that the question then you had to ask yourself was, is this just a fluke because it's a contract year, or can Kovacevic become more of that kind of player? Well, we don't know right now because he hasn't played. And now we're wondering how healthy is Jonathan Kovacevic right now? Can he actually come back? Well, he legally can't because Tom Fitzgerald can't put him into the lineup because they don't have the cap space. And I worry now, Jim, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm worried that if things continue the way they are, that Tom Fitzgerald could get in big trouble for cap circumvention
I
because
don't
of that.
know. I know that's a big story out there, but I think he's still legitimately hurt. But
Okay.
again, while he's practicing, he can practice. Like, he can be in a non-contact sweater, but is he 100% healthy to go? Like, we don't know. But again, this was my fear because I told you this in the offseason. The plan all along with the Luke Hughes thing was, all right, well, if we can't move anybody, we'll just dump Kovacevic on LTIR for as much as we can. and we'll figure it out.
Right.
Well, we're getting to it's almost midnight, Cinderella, and we need to figure out how we're going to get back in the lineup. And we don't know what we're going to do. And you have to figure out a way to get I guess, a $4 million player back on there. And, and you don't have the money to do it. You just
No,
don't do it.
you
Like,
don't.
and now Dawson Mercer's in a position where you can't trade him because Jack Hughes can't take faceoffs.
Yep, you can't. And the other thing is that now we're hearing that Mercer could be involved in trades for a top 6 winger, and my response is still the same. Where is the money coming from? The problem really just stems from the fact that there just isn't room to necessarily add to this team.
You can't
Once
add
again,
to this team. You can't
right,
add to this team.
you
Like,
can't.
the first and foremost thing you have to figure out is how do you get Kovacevic back into the lineup? And then you go from there. Like, you're
I,
trying to do
I
steps
don't know.
4,
I
5, and
don't know how they
6
do it.
before doing the main step. And the main step is how do you move the money to get the defenseman back in the lineup?
Sure.
And
And
you just don't. I mean, at this point, you don't. They're exhausting all their options. They got to figure it out because you have until February 4th at 3 p.m. before the trade freeze goes back into effect for 2.5 weeks.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So, like, at some point, somebody's got to say, all right, we got to move somebody. Like, we have to go to somebody and say, look, dude, like, at some point, we got to figure out where do you want to go, and we got to work on it.
Right.
And you may not get the best return, but at some point, you're going to have to do it.
And you're just going to have to accept that Tom Fitzgerald has to do this because he dug himself into this position in the first place. And he's going to have to, like you said, make hard decisions.
And I know he likes the team and I likes the players and this, but this is a business. I go back to what Kelly McCrimmon said. I'm in the winning business, not the hockey business.
Right.
Like, he's the Vegas Golden Knights have made how many tough decisions?
Oh, 100,000 at this point.
Right. To win the one Stanley Cup that they've gotten.
And yep. Mm-hmm.
And now they're starting. See, I know they're always in on players, but I'm starting to wonder if they're going to start leaning towards keeping some picks and start restocking their cupboard because they just don't have the bodies to put into their lineup anymore.
Because every year they're dealing with some significant injury.
Right.
Mainly Mark Stone. It feels like every year Mark Stone
and this was the worst year for New Jersey for the new LTIR rules to go into effect.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if the old rules were in effect, this isn't a problem. You add Quinn Hughes and you just move on.
You figure right, and you punt to the off season, and you go
punt to the off season, and you just figure it out.
Things are just that much tougher, and I think the real change that Devils fans want to see just can't happen until the off season.
No,
I don't see a world where they will make a move. I really don't see a world, Jim, where they make a move that is going to somehow make everybody forgive Tom Fitzgerald for
they're not going to forgive him because they wanted Quinn Hughes. And like I said before, if you have read any of my stuff and you followed along, there was an opportunity to do it, but they just couldn't do it.
No.
And you had to accept it.
Right.
That they weren't going to play with each other right now.
Right.
And they may never do it in the National Hockey League. They may. Yeah. You never look. You can never.
They said they wanted to play together. They could do it in the Olympics, maybe.
They're doing it in the Olympics. The two of them are playing together,
right?
So I mean, but again, so the best is let's fire the GM. Well, who are you replacing with? I'm not replacing with it. I am not going internal. If I'm replacing the general manager,
you can't
do it.
So, you gotta think outside of the organization. You gotta bring in hockey people.
Right.
Like this is and you have to. You can keep analytics to an extent, but you can't make it.
It can't be the be all. Yeah, exactly. You can't be. So that's why if you're gonna move the GM, you have to do it at the end of the season. But the ownership doesn't want to do it. Ownership, there's no accountability because the ownership is, I don't know how many teams they manage now.
That's the thing I keep telling people because they say, oh, management ownership doesn't care. It's much more of the fact that they own so much now that they have no time to think about it.
No, if there was one owner looking at the Devils constantly, there might have been a GM change last offseason.
The only thing I want, I'll somewhat defend Jim is this: David Blitzer is at every game and he's always there. Josh Harris, I couldn't tell you the last time I've actually seen him anywhere near the rock. I'm not trying to defend David Blitzer in any way, shape, or form,
No,
but as a collective, because they both own the team, they would have to come to that decision as a collective to say we have to move on. And the thing is that like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting somehow the results are going to change. Like I still can't believe that on Black Monday in the NFL that Joe Shane still has his job as the general manager of the New York Giants, and they just want to continue that even though they already fired the head coach and they want to start over again. But you're keeping the GM who's won 20 some odd games in the 4-ish years that he's been the GM. And like, it's just ownership not knowing what they're doing.
right,
Clearly.
exactly. It's
And
clear. Oh, it's clear. It's 100%. I mean, look, John Mara's dealing with his own health issues.
right.
So shout out to John Mara for the battle he's going through. But if you look at the Devil connection, like John McMullen, when Lou was president and GM, you couldn't get a word out of the organization. You just didn't
No,
know
they
what
don't
that.
talk. Yep.
They don't
Yep.
talk, right? Now it feels like everything's kind of leaking out and this and that and the other thing. But look, you had the new head coach. You get everybody's getting on Markstrom's case. He's playing better. Like the reason the Devils are even close to like where they are is because the goaltending has actually been really good this year. Like has been phenomenal, and
Way to
Markstrom's
blame
really been playing really well over his last like 5 starts. Like
his
he's
last
played
5 starts. He has a 9.73 save percentage.
right. So
Not
it's
his
not.
fault.
It's not. First of all, like goaltending and defense go hand in hand. When the defense isn't helping the goaltender, you can't rely on the goaltender to make 7 saves
Right.
without the puck going into the net.
Right.
So, and that narrative I hated that narrative too. Because as much as, like, I had the Markstrom deal to New Jersey, so I want to defend, like, the baby that I broke. But at times he did not play well. There were some goals that he could let in, and he has been
Yep.
admitted it. Same with Jake Allen. But the team in front of him offensively needs to be a lot better. And again, I go back to what Brad Treliving said. If you're not playing the right way, I can bring in 5 new players. It's not going to change the fact we're going to still lose games if we're not playing the right way. If you
Right.
don't play the right way, it doesn't matter how many trades you make.
Sure.
You're still losing.
Yep.
Got to play the right way. Like play a 60-minute game the right way every night.
Yeah.
You'll be successful. Like, maybe you're not going to win every game.
Yeah.
But maybe you steal some points that you're not supposed to steal.
Give yourself a better chance.
Or you go to overtime. Hey, get some loser points. What was that?
Right.
What was that record? Didn't the Islanders win like 17 or 18
The
loser
Islanders
points?
last year were ridiculous with the loser point. It was
No, but the year they made the playoffs, they were
Oh,
still
yeah.
ridiculous with loser points.
Oh,
They
yeah.
got them in the playoffs.
Yeah. That's
So,
huge.
That's
And that's
huge.
important.
That's important. Give yourself a chance to steal the extra point.
Yeah.
This team hasn't proven it during this stretch. Look, I also think, and I think this is a big reason why they haven't made a move yet, is I think they want to see what this team is fully healthy.
I mean, I think this is the closest we're gonna get, other than
Right. And I don't think Dadanoff's really gonna make an impact. Like,
no.
and I think if anything, if he's 100% healthy, and it clears only $1 million of cap space, but I think he would move at March 6th. Like, I think you would try to trade him and just whatever.
Yeah.
Or if he can't play the rest of this season, Robida Island piece. Like that's $1 million. Okay. That gives you some relief.
Right. And I think that's what it comes down to. And I say this, at the end of the day, with this Devils team, to kind of wrap this whole discussion up, this is who they are.
Right.
This is who they are. Like, it's not like it's going to get immensely better. It certainly could, but there would have to be a lot of things going their way for that to happen. And I understand that any game could be the turnaround. I was hoping that the win against Columbus would be the kind of win that would
I think that's what everybody was looking
flip the
at.
script.
Everybody circled it. 3rd period, 2 goals, 3 minutes, the way you win the game. You're like, okay, that was your season right there.
Right.
That's
And then
your
you had
season defining moment.
Right. And you had a great game, honestly, a full, complete
They
game
played excellent. I watched that
against
game on
Utah.
my iPad. I watched it, and we're watching football, but I watched the game. Played it. That was a stellar game. One of the best games I've seen them play
100%.
all year. One of the best games I've seen them. And
Right.
then again, the mental side of things as we talk. Back to back. Come out with that performance. You let Carolina dictate again, letting Carolina dictate their play from the start.
And Carolina had just blown a multi-goal lead
The
literally
night
24
before.
hours before. Right, exactly. And so you're like, you got to strike while the iron is hot. You got to take advantage of a team that is struggling right now to score. And fortunately enough for Carolina, technically they didn't have to score last night because they got 3 goals
They
gifted.
did, yeah, Devils did it for them.
Right, exactly. So it was just, to me, it comes down to this. As far as expectations go, this is just who the Devils are. As I keep saying, consistently inconsistent. That and Sheldon Keefe has brought that up. I love that Keefe also isn't afraid to say what is obvious, where he's like, we need other guys in this lineup. We need to add to this team. He hasn't really said that specifically, but you can tell by some of the times he answers questions that he's like, this is what I have to deal with. This is who I got. And I have to go with it. And people say, well, why is he playing this player, this? But what choice does the man have?
He doesn't have any, like, what other options does he have right now? Like, he was really honest about Jack Hughes. He's like, well, we like Jack. Like, he's like, well, do you see this as a future thing with Jack Hughes at the wing? Ladies and gentlemen, I've talked to a lot of people, even when the Devils drafted him. They said they should have put Jack Hughes on the wing from the start and go get a second line center. That would have solved a lot of problems.
Yeah. He's a winger, not a center.
Because Jack could be Patrick Kane. And if the Devils realize that, then you have something.
Right. And we're going to see that to an extent in the Olympics because I'm sure he's going to be playing on the wing. I'm sure he's going to end up playing with Austin Matthews again because that's just what the lines look like. But obviously things can change. But the bottom line is that until major change happens to this team, this is just what they are. And like that's a sucky thing to say and accept, but it's the truth.
But that's the reality of the situation if you really look at it and you don't take everything these insiders say as gospel and you realize, hey, wait a minute. How can they really afford to get this guy without help? Like if, for instance, if Stamkos were to come to New Jersey, right?
Where's the money coming from?
Well, where's the money coming from? But if Nashville's retaining 50%, who else is going out the door? Like, what other depth are you losing?
Some other value has to go the other way because I don't think Nashville would just be like, yeah, we'll take like a first round pick. No, I don't think that. Like,
no, they want
Barry Trotz is not an idiot.
No, he knows who he wants. Like, and same with like when Marchessault was a free agent, the Devils tried to get him, but they were only giving him a 3-year deal.
It just,
you could have had it. You could have had Marchessault. Like they were legitimately had him until he decided that he heard Stamkos was going to Nashville.
Literally last minute, because I think all signs at one point at the end of July.
I tweeted it out July 1st morning. I said all signs point expect Jonathan Marchessault to sign 12 p.m. with New Jersey.
Right.
And then I got a text in the airline to say, wait a minute, something's changing here.
Right. And I know that the Devils also had interest in bringing in Stamkos at the time.
Right.
I don't know exactly how
didn't get far because I think they were looking at Marchessault more.
Yeah, right. So it didn't get far. I don't know if they should have put more of their focus on him. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. We can play revisionist history as much as we want.
Right, of course. And that's the thing.
And then if you keep doing that, and I'm going to stress this to your fans and your listeners and every day, stop living in the past about the Quinn Hughes thing. Start moving on. This is the team you're going to be watching. Accept it. Accept the fact that they're probably not going to do anything except a minor move here and there. Nothing significant is coming. And if it does, it'll really be shocking because all signs right now point to they're not doing it.
Yeah. So my last question to you, Jim, is this. When it comes to Tom Fitzgerald, what is your overall prediction? Do you think that if the Devils either don't make the playoffs or let's say they do and they get bounced in the first round, do you think it's likely that Tom Fitzgerald could be let go, or do you think it doesn't really matter at this point and his job is fairly secured?
Good question. There's going to be a hard conversation if they don't make the playoffs or they lose in the first round. It's going to be a very hard conversation. It's going to be a long and hard conversation that would I be shocked if they made a GM change? No. But they better be if that's the decision and the direction they're going in, you better start looking now for who your next general manager is going to be if that's the decision you want to do. I personally think they'll give him another draft in an offseason to do stuff. But again, that's just my personal opinion.
Sure. I got you.
If I talk to some people, the sense is, again, when I've talked to people about this, the end of the year, long and hard conversations, what I've been told. This team has expectations. He hasn't lived up to them. And the second part is, if that's the direction they want to go in, then they better start looking for somebody now. Because they don't have a Jarmo Kekalainen in the system as an advisor to.
No, they have Chuck Fletcher instead.
Right. Who, look what he did in Minnesota.
Oh, God. Just, I don't know why.
I think, like I said, once Buffalo hired Jarmo to be an advisor, you knew the writing was on the wall. Kevyn Adams was gone. If the Devils had done that in the offseason, then you knew the minute something went awry, Tom Fitzgerald's out the door.
And look at the energy in that building since Kevyn Adams was dismissed. I mean, they went on a 10-game heater.
Look, everybody's afraid of being Buffalo. I can make the argument, despite the 2 playoff appearances, the Devils are what Buffalo is right now.
Stuck in a wheel. Stuck in a wheel that they haven't figured out how to get out of. And that's a far cry from where we thought the team was in 22-23, which, I mean, again, was in a different position at that point. So,
but I'll say this one closing thing.
Sure.
I've seen what Montreal's done, Detroit's doing, San Jose, Anaheim. Like, if you do things the right way, like, would I be shocked if Montreal has a Stanley Cup before New Jersey? No.
I wouldn't be that shocked either if I'm being honest.
I'm be honest, no. Because look who they have in their system and look what's coming.
Devils fans, I would like to give you some sort of positivity right now, but it's just hard. It's just hard because we're being honest. We see what the team is right now, and until things really change, again, to close this out, this is just who they are.
Right.
This is just who they are.
Gotta accept it right now.
And you got to accept it. And all we could do is just be fans of the team, watch the games, and hope that maybe they can create their own, momentum. And maybe it starts tomorrow on Long Island. I'm actually making the long trip up. First time I've ever been at Belmont. So
enjoy that.
That'll be interesting. And we'll see how it goes tomorrow.
Yeah.
But Jim, this was great, man. I always appreciate you taking the time to come on the pod and speak. You're a good dude. You do a great job with all the work that you do. And with that being said, I want to roll out the red carpet to let my listeners and viewers here, if they don't know your stuff, to get a chance to understand what you got going on and everything like that. So the floor is yours, my friend.
Yeah, guys, check it out. Obviously, you get me at X at Jim Biringer. That's I interact with everybody. Just don't be vulgar. I'll answer you guys. I love to interact with everybody. Full Press Media up on Substack. Just keeping things going. NHLRumors.com. My Full Press Hockey on YouTube as well, breaking down a lot of stuff. Jersey Jim on Instagram. Got nightcap recap stuff going on. But I just try to bring you the devilsnation.com as well, just trying to bring you the honesty and maybe a different perspective than what you're seeing through the other people that are out there, and trying to give you a deeper dive into why the situation is the situation, instead of always piling on the negative. I know it's easy. That's what we love to do. Again, we've talked about it. Is there a chance? Yeah, there is, but they got to find it within themselves to do it. And that's the biggest message I've been trying to focus on. This team has the ability to do it. It's when they want to do it, is my thought.
And we shall see how things progress here as we begin 2026 and we begin this month of January. But Jim, thank you so much for coming on, man. As always, we appreciate it. We will definitely have you back on, maybe for an end of the year thing, maybe a trade deadline episode. We'll see how things progress. But thank you so much for your time today, man. We appreciate it.
Neil, guys, always a pleasure being on the podcast. Anytime.